I pray that you are having an amazing day. Jumping in, The Red Book by Mark Harper, Chapter 8 in our intentional summer of training. Before we talk briefly about Chapter 8, just this past Tuesday at Grace World, every Tuesday we have a intercessory prayer time. I encourage any of you that are free on Tuesday mornings to come out to that. However, as we were praying this Tuesday, Pastor Daniel just prayed a very prophetic prayer over Chris, the Ascend Ministry, myself, and Grace Kids, that we are not taking this summer as a time off as much as we are taking this summer as a time of intentionality to prepare for the season in the fall when school starts to launch and keep taking ground and pioneering new things for the kingdom. So as we continue, I just pray intentionality as you're watching these videos that you're getting more and more of a heart to serve these kids and families and lead them closer to Jesus. So here we go, chapter 8, love your neighbor. Now this, I'm going to read the verse today because this has become one of our key verses. We talk about this verse every Sunday as we are giving kids expectations and guidelines. Jesus replied, Matthew 22, 37 through 39, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is a lot like it, he said, love your neighbor as yourself. That's why every week when we kick off Grace Kids, we remind them. The first thing we do is we honor God. The second thing we do is honor our neighbor, the people in this room, respect them. And then, our third expectation is have an attitude of gratitude. But let's camp on love your neighbor for just a moment. We know that it doesn't take long for a kid to become very self-centered. I, at the moment, have a 2-year-old, and even this morning, we are playing catch. And when his brother gets the ball and doesn't throw it fast enough, the 2-year-old wants to run over, grab it, and say such phrases as mine, my turn, give me that. So when it comes to the phrase, love your neighbor, this is not a natural default for anyone, including kids. Now, kids are precious. In one moment, you'll see them sharing, and the next moment, they'll be pushing the same kid that they were just sharing with. So the key takeaway here, and I think this will be the first chapter I've said this. If you have the book, you should read chapter 8. When I say chapter, I mean 2 pages. It's literally 2 whole full pages. That's all it is. But there is more stuff that Mark Harper lays out dealing with 4 key struggles that young people have in loving their neighbor than I have time to go into. However, here's what I want the takeaway of this video to be. We can very easily throw out the thought in our heads to ourselves when we see one kid being mean to another, one kid taking advantage of another, that they're just kids, brush it off, and move on with something else. The verse says, love God first and love your neighbor. The way we love our neighbor is also indicating how we're loving God. So in the moment, it doesn't have to be a lecture, it doesn't have to be a speech, but as we're leading kids, especially at Grace Kids, if you see a kid showing any behavior that is not honoring to God or their friends, their neighbors, then it needs to be addressed. Don't simply look over it like it's not a big deal. It's as simple as tapping the kid on the shoulder and asking them the question, buddy, was that honoring? Did that show honor to that person and to God who created that person? Don't just ignore it, but just address it quickly in the moment, because it's not our default to just naturally love our neighbor. It needs to be intentionally reminded of. So that's chapter 8, love thy neighbor. In order to love our neighbor, we first must love God. So I pray you get some time today just to spend with the Father, and I will see you again soon. Love you guys.